Günaydın herkese. Bugün ilginç bir panelimiz var. Bakalım neler çıkartacağız. Programdan her şeyi biliyorsunuz zaten. Nina ve Enes'le Metaverse ve İnsan Davranışı konuşacağız deyip hayatımıza geçelim. Just we're talking about human behavior in Metaverse, but I don't know what Metaverse is. Everybody's definition is a different one. And in Turkey, it's much more interesting because for Google searches, Turkey is number 2 in searching Metaverse in Google after China. So those guys are 1.5 or 2 billion. So it's nice to have a country which is highly and more than enough interested in Metaverse. So let's see, really, what really Metaverse is, and does it exist, or is it a hype, or is it Zuck's fence when he changed the name a year ago? Yeah.
Okay, the Metaverse. To quote a virtual reality pioneer, Tom Furness, the Metaverse is like the atom splitting. It can be used for helping humanity, or it can be used to destroy humanity. That is where we're currently at with the state of the Metaverse. We're on the cusp of powerful tools like fire. And maybe the question that we ask ourselves today is, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to use the Metaverse? And from my perspective, how are we going to put safeguards in place so that we, and also younger generations, don't get burned? That didn't answer the question at all. But yeah. On a more practical level, the Metaverse is a combination of immersive technologies. It's the next evolution of the internet.
But we are not there
We are
yet.
not there. Well,
Almost.
it depends on your personal point of view.
No.
Immersive technology, blockchain, cryptocurrencies coming together to live in a perpetual virtual world in which we seamlessly move from the physical to the digital. Sounds exciting, doesn't it?
So it's just a
You're
transitionary
not satisfied?
period. So it's like people at 13, 14, they are no more kids, but they are no more young people or adults. So we are just at that era,
Right.
I think. Enes?
Well, I mean, it's something that was, the concept was there for a long, long time, and we're just like trying to make it really happen now, that we can have digital spaces that we can live, learn, and I don't know, like do so many other things that we're normally doing in easier ways, I guess. It still has like a lot of ways to go to make it safer and like accessible. There's a long way to go, of course, but I believe, for me as an artist at least, it's a space that I can create my own worlds and do many other things. So I guess it's just like a parallel universe that you can find your own definition in it.
It's a parallel universe. Okay, so Nina, are we going to be divided in between two universes? Because reality is the word. Once we had one single reality, now we have plenty of it. We have virtual reality, we have augmented reality, mixed reality, hyper reality, put together reality. Even when I have fun when people say real sector, which means non-financial, so this means that financial is not real. So we have too many words having real in it and meaning something which is not real.
Yeah.
So as people, we think that we are real. And when we are going to be virtual, are we going to be real? Are we going to have two different, one that we both the same, or we all the same, maybe more than both?
Well, I think that's one of the most exciting times, or one of the most exciting reasons, and why it's exciting to be alive at this time, is because we are asking questions just like that. We have the capability for a plethora of realities that, in previous versions of humanity we didn't necessarily have. And I think That's the question we have to ask ourselves, is how many realities do we want? How many realities can we psychologically actually deal with? And how can the coming together and the convergence of all these different realities serve us as individuals, as families, as communities, as societies, as nations? And those are the really important questions we need to ask ourselves right now, because the technology is powerful and we cannot underestimate it right now. So it's really exciting to be asking these questions because there are no real answers at the moment.
So that's why we are in the transitionary period. So that's why we have to ask it now, because it will be maybe too late.
Exactly.
Well,
Enes.
I mean, I guess we're seeing reality a bit too solid, in my opinion. It's something that is constantly shifting and changing. And I guess this is still real, it's still reality. Maybe it's a different way of understanding, but I just wanted to say that it's probably better to see reality as a concept, not something so solid. It's just a way of seeing and understanding.
So reality should be solid in one way.
Well, I'm saying that I think it shouldn't be, but it is what you want to be.
Exactly. So we're talking about an imagination, because also today's concern is technology and imagination. And when we say imagination, it will be also expression. So we didn't have room for imagination for a long time in the last 60, 70 years. We were quite determined to think about or to imagine. We were given tools to imagine and stay in the limits of this imagination. And if you go beyond that, it will be dangerous. So now, this time, sky is really the limit. So what it brings, all this, to imagination and then expression, because we have to express ourselves, and now we have much more ways to express ourselves. So how this immense opportunity and even freedom to express will change us, because in one way we are going to be in the physical world and physical expression, but on the other hand, we have almost limitless, I didn't want to say, but I would say virtual existence.
Yeah, that's one of the beautiful opportunities of the metaverse, is its capacity to unlock imaginations, to bring our thoughts from our internal space into the digital space. And that is very exciting and opens up a lot of positive opportunities for us. And across different sectors and industries, healthcare, education, and art, certainly. I mean, the capacity to generate new aesthetics, new forms of art across, traditional mediums and transitioning and creating in new methods is very exciting. And I hope it remains that way. I think sometimes when we talk about the metaverse, it shifts to a conversation about consumerism, new ways to shop, new ways to do business, new ways to market, new ways to create brands. And I don't know about you, but that's where I get a little bit less interested about the metaverse, because that's when we, again, become consumers and then marketers use all of this creativity to kind of catch our attention. And then we're in this space of everything being digital, in synthetic, and all of this data that's not only now coming from what we click onto our keyboard, but it's actually coming from our physiological bodies, so capturing our eye tracking, our heart rates, our galvanized skin response, you name it, that data can be captured, and then how certain platforms use that data to then manipulate our behavior and use that data to send us particular marketing messages. That's where the creativity gets really lost, because we're no longer stepping into the metaverse to, as I call it, dance with our pixels, because that's the beautiful part of the metaverse, is that we're entering a digital synthetic environment where we can move full body expression in the digital space. It's no longer bound to our smartphone or our desktop computer, but we're literally stepping into the virtual synthetic environment and engaging with other human beings in that space. And that's a really fascinating aspect of it. But once the technology platforms can capture how we choose to behave, how we choose to interact, that's when it gets a little bit scary, because then we're in a digital environment that can be very easily manipulated in some capacities to take advantage of us and take advantage of us as psychological beings who haven't adapted or evolved for thousands of years, really. The technology has advanced exponentially, but we're still essentially the same. And I think if we forget that, then the opportunities of the metaverse will be lost.
So just metaverse or all the technological developments are enabling us to do more.
I don't think they can hear you.
Sorry? Oh, sorry. Do you think that all these technology are enabling the same body, which exists for millions of years, to do more? So this is not replacing us, but helping us to achieve exponentially more.
In a way, yeah. I mean, personally, for me, all the points that you made are unbelievably true and incredible. But for me, I've been working in 3D for 15 years, I think, and I always had to, whatever I was creating, like building a world or doing whatever inside of this software, it was always through a screen. So whatever I would, even if it was has its own dimension in it, all this kind of parts, I always had to experience it through a screen, which is something always was super annoying for me. And at the moment, Levent saying sky is the limit, it's like you can't create your own sky now. So basically, it's just that for me, it's fascinating in some ways. Obviously, it's very scary in some other levels, because when you're not really limited, what do you really create and what are you against? Because usually for me, it's comes from there. It's just when I really want to do something or want to create something, it usually comes from a limitation. And when you don't really have that, I don't know why you're creating anymore. But there's obviously so many more limitations still. I'm just maybe thinking for the future. But for the creativity part, I think the structures that we have in the reality that we know of is going to be probably the same there, because it's something we are building. We're going to have similar limitations, even though it provides us so many possibilities which we are afraid of. We don't know how they're going to affect our youth. We don't know how they're going to affect our future. So we are just going to keep limiting ourselves the same way we are doing it in this reality. And basically, we are basically creating what we have in another dimension, because we are afraid of where it can get. And probably in time, it's going to slowly shape. We're going to keep killing those limits, and we're going to be more comfortable being in this unlimited space, because we all freak out because of that, honestly. So for me, it's not really just creating crazy possibilities, because we just keep killing the possibilities. Understandably, obviously. I'm not saying this shouldn't happen or anything, because I've been watching a lot of videos, 10 years going into Metaverse, and then just how they are behaving, what they are seeing, what they're being exposed to, so uncontrollable that it's insane to see a kid in that stage. But at the same time, I think those kind of traumas are things that also open our minds in some ways. So I can't really say something very solid about it, but I think there's always a duality of the way of looking at it. We're just gonna kill the limits until we know what this is gonna do to us, I think.
But in that perspective, while really, I'm just creating is the word now, because no more influencers. We have now creators. Everyone is becoming a creator. So I think that some words and concepts are used and worn out quite easily, quite fast, and before it should be.
That's true.
So the creator word is, in that sense, worn out easily, but let's say expression, and you use it very well. And we have to express ourselves on one side physically, on the other side in different environments, which is mostly virtual. So should it be unique? Is it going to be unique, which is valid in both? Or when we are going to express ourselves, will it be more in the virtual one where we are going to contact much more people or much more occasions than we can technically in physical world? Or is the language, tonality, or composition, organization of expression will differ highly in physical or in virtual?
Well, I think just going back to the concept of a creator in the metaverse, and that, you know, when we talk about Web3, we talk about all the decentralized capabilities that the future may hold. That's one of the appealing pieces of the puzzle that Web3 offers, is this kind of all the decentralized finance, decentralized autonomous organizations. You know, the appeal of that is that people are empowered to have more autonomy over their lives and their choices, and what they do has influence in the space, and that's something that's very appealing, and why maybe the aspects of the metaverse and Web3 are gaining some traction and buzzwords right now. You know, in it, you know, the bear and bull markets and cryptocurrencies are big conversations, and you know, it's all up in the air. There's lots of people who are skeptical. There's lots of people who are, you know, really loyal to the vision of interoperable future enabled by all of these new emerging technologies. And I think that as society, that push and pull, that duality of freedom, and you know, the vision of creating a new life for yourself is always is the reality of what it is to be human. Like, that's what
Exactly,
being a
yeah.
real human is, you know, that desire, that vision, that aspiration to make change, not only on many levels, for yourself, for your family, for society as a whole. And that's the reality, and that's the metaverse. Web3 gives us another medium in which to go on that self journey. That is the reality of what it is to be human. Was that a bit of an abstract answer to the concept of?
In fact, any answer would be abstract.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Because we are trying to define the undefinable for the time being, because we have too many parameters for the development. So it's the word is unforeseen for everything for the coming 10 years. Mm-hmm. And last year's Oxford Dictionary word of the year was the best, unprecedented. Mm. So whatever will happen today or in the coming 5-10 years would, in my opinion, will be unprecedented.
Yes. Well, just to make a note, unprecedented, you know, I live in London at the moment. We've just had the shortest prime minister's term ever on record. So it's unprecedented. It continues. Lots of exciting news coming from London today. Yeah.
Yeah, she used the Airbnb for Downing Street 10
Yes,
years.
yeah. Yeah.
So, Enes, in your case, as we are saying that it's quite difficult to define and everything is unprecedented, but you're expressing in a way. So and your preferences is more on the virtual than physical, or both?
Well, I mean, actually, honestly, I'm creating more physical world recently than more than ever. I think it also comes from a need of physicality as well. So I don't necessarily believe in fully digital or physical life from now on. I just feel like the balance in between is most important. There are times that I'm looking at screens so long that I just hate them. And it's like, I just need something to play with my hands. I need something to really just, I don't know, do something really physical that you like feel, touch. Maybe the technology will develop in a point that we will feel exactly the same at some point in the space as well. We don't know yet. People are trying, but for me, at this point, physicality and digital platforms or tools that you can create with, it's just like, they're just tools. They're ways to express yourself, and I think your needs change and shift in times. There are times that you're maybe feeling a bit more isolated, and you're just like not feeling enough physical connection with other humans or anything, and then those are times that maybe you're trying to, you need to feel a touch of something, you need to create something physical. So I think it's very important to understand those needs and basically do what comes from them rather than pushing yourself to be like fully digital or fully physical. I think those things are just like not a thing anymore. We just have so many tools. We just need to know what we need, and then we can use those tools based on those needs.
I think the word hybrid is still very valid, even for you. Everything will be hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't want to belong into one thing. I never did.
Okay, this for me is the biggest word, belonging.
Yeah.
Because 20th century is owning. You have to own a better house, a better car, a better place. You have to have a better vacation. Your kids should have a better education.
Yeah.
Everything should be better, and you have to own it. You have to own a car, anything.
Yeah, there's only one way to go.
And also, your happiness is defined with what you own, including your bank account, your cars, everything. Today's problem is more being alone, because you don't belong no more to big things like religion, family, country, nationality, etc. These are not covering all your needs of belonging, no more.
Yeah.
But also, with the world getting smaller and with all these flights and all nations and cultures crossing,
And realities.
and migration, we all migrating somewhere, so you're alone. It's the loneliness. So you need more belonging than owning, and maybe the 21st century will be more belonging.
Yeah.
But art should be owned by someone also.
Well, I mean, I guess so.
You need to, I think. So and we are talking about a different type of ownership. The word digital wallet is quite fun. I have my wallet, I know what I have in it. I have my wallet, my bank account, my papers for my other things. But when I have a digital wallet somewhere, no one knows it, even I don't see it. I may have too many things in it. Cars, buildings, houses, seas, oceans. I always tell people to buy things in Mars or something, because this is unexploited places. So you own even Neptune, but no one knows it. So digital wallet also shows an important phase of owning and belonging contradiction. So are we going to move more on belonging? Because belonging has a very nice friend word, sharing. So are we going to be alone, more alone, or much better? For example, if I look at our friends there are three just working with their computers, having their eyes on their screens. All others, mostly at least every single 5 minutes, they are looking at their screens. In early 2000s, we were calling them screenagers. That's rather than their real age and how they were involved with the screens. Now everybody is in screens. They still continue to be in their screens. So, with the immersive, we are not going to be on screens. Are we this means that are we going to be still alone and need more belonging, or then we are going to be involved in different communities, places, so that we are going to have less need for belonging?
Good question, actually. Good question.
Yeah, good. Well, I think the existential question of belonging is is maybe even too much for the metaverse to solve. But people feel like they belong in the metaverse. For decades now, people have been finding communities in social virtual reality spaces, and I think when it's coming to the forefront now, for those of us who are maybe not accustomed with social virtual reality and the potential that it brings to connect with people in different parts of the world and find love in the metaverse, or find friends, or find all sorts of different ways of belonging. And it is a source of belonging for some people, and I think for those of us who don't feel like we belong in the metaverse yet, I think it's because we haven't been curious enough and we haven't kind of played enough in the space, and maybe it takes time, and some people never will feel as though they belong in the metaverse. Those are questions that only you as an individual will be able to answer.
But you have much less ownership pressure.
You have less ownership? Pressure. Well,
I mean, we don't know if it's going to get there as well.
I think the sense of belonging is, again, this sense of creating expression of yourself that the digital medium allows you to create. And so how you feel on the inside can be manifested on the outside in new ways that we haven't been currently. So people who find it difficult to exist in this world, in their communities, and feel that they don't identify and belong in the current physical circumstances that they have, can find ways of finding communities that they belong to, whether that's designing an avatar with skins that expresses who they are, or it's an animal, or it's a different gender, or it allows people to claim some of how they feel on the inside and express it on the outside, and then, yeah.
But this was valid also in today's social media world. I can have an animal, I can have a different gender, I can have a very nice body guy, etc. So it's still possible, but it will be a bit more, I think.
The paradigm shift in it is that it's not on a 2D screen anymore. It's three-dimensional, and it's around you, and the other person is three-dimensional, and we engage together in the digital space, embodied in avatars, and we're immersed and present, and it feels very real.
So I think that the biggest difference is leaving the screens, which means earning a z-axis, because we always lived in x and y axis. Everything is x and y axis, and we complete the remaining part. I am also that I am coming from the black and white TV ages. Mm-hmm. And when you were watching a match, you were putting the colors of the teams in your brain, although they were shades of gray. Mm-hmm. Not 50, but more. Mm-hmm. But in that case, now we are not going to need to complete the remaining parts, but you're going to live in. So it will be another type of discovery and belonging, maybe.
I guess the meaning of the world will probably change a little bit. I think we define things with what we know already. And if we experience different experiences, if we know new things, those things can change the meaning for you. So I guess as a word belonging, it's something, I guess what I do and why I do it probably always came from there, not feeling belonged, so I just felt created different worlds, probably. It's I wanted to I didn't want to be where I was, and I just wanted to be somewhere else, and I couldn't go there, so I just had to create and imagine it myself, and I think everything kind of started that way. So basically, do I still feel belong to what I create? No, I don't. But it's a constant pursuit of just trying to get there, and I don't think Metaverse is the tool that provides you all these things, because I think that feeling is inside of you, not out of you. But as I said, I think the word itself is just changing the meaning of how you define it.
And that's how I am going to own your piece of art. Before it was easy. I was putting your piece in my room, in my office, on my wall,
I
on my
still do
garden.
things like that as well.
Now I'm just, you're giving me some pixels for the time being.
Yeah.
So owning it will be a completely different definition. Because when you were visiting my house, you were seeing, I said, this is Enes work.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I just saw like my work just passing through the screens, and I was just thinking, we are talking about Metaverse right now, and I could actually show the audience my work just like around us, you know, like we could be inside of it right now. So, like, how do you own it? How you can own it is just like, I don't know, there's many differences. Maybe you just have a house and you just put your glasses and you're in my work, and you don't have to have it on your wall all the time, which is actually better. Like, why would you want something constantly? Because things are changing and shifting so fast. I think we need the flexibility anyways. So I guess like in the future, that would be some nice way to go. That you don't have to drill the walls, install the things, put them down.
You can put it in your digital wallet, carry it everywhere you want to go, and put it.
No one sees.
And you can own more. You're not defined by the space anymore.
Okay, we are talking about things which are changing immensely, so that's why we're calling it a transformation rather than a development. And we are talking always about technology, where technology is just the starting engine of it. A car is also a technology, but I'm just 1 billion drivers are not engineers. So the transformation is, rather than being technological, because people are always talking about the technological transformation, this is more a cultural, social, organizational change or real transformation. How long it will take for people to adapt that? And are we going to face a huge differences between levels of people, and we are going to live in a quite difficult area where people cannot really communicate at the same level?
I actually see the technology, if we're talking about the hardware aspect of it, an improvement on our current state of how we engage with technology, because we are looking at our phones like this, like zombies, about, at least half of our days, walking down the streets of London, and I'm sure in Istanbul, people are on their phones more than they are looking at people and making eye contact. And so, the technology, the hardware itself, I think is going to be a massive improvement on how we live in the context of augmented virtual reality, and how we engage, again, from the top of our head to our tips of our toes, and we're back into being upright human beings instead of, evolution forward, down, back into the ground. So I see it as freeing us up physically and physiologically, and I think that's a good thing. I think what we need to think about is psychologically what kind of questions we need to ask ourselves about that kind of perpetual blurring of the virtual, the digital, and the physical, and how that reframing of the reality impacts young people in their cognitive development. A memory made in Disneyland in the metaverse versus a memory made in Disneyland in Florida or Paris, wherever you want to go. Like, are they equal memories of that child who went there as 6 and is now 30 years old and trying to remember, did I actually go, or was it in a digital space? And those might have implications further down the line around our mental health. I don't know. It's about to be unveiled, and I don't think we did a good enough job in Web 2 with social media and how it was introduced into our lives as a fun social activity, but it really has changed human behavior. And so our opportunity right now is to be curious, ask questions, do the research. If you are an academic, go into it, ask these questions. If you're an artist, like, grapple with these kind of existential, questions about who am I, and what is technology, and what are the possible futures. And there's lots of opportunities to dream right now. and imagine all those multiple futures and consider which one we want to have.
Well, do you think that there's a discrepancy between today's values and imagination? Because you're not much allowed to imagine. Not in schools, we are going to come to that later, but not in companies, not in the environment. You don't have to imagine too much. Everything is almost well defined, and you have to, if I may say, obey.
Well, that's the role of the artist, isn't it? Isn't that why we're here? Is the role of the artist is to play.
Well, I mean, exactly. But at the same time, now, if you look at social media, it came with so many promises, obviously, that we can do so much in it. And then at the moment, we are just stuck in it, as like the algorithm just defines what you do and how you, like, you know.
That's what I call algorithmocracy.
And I don't think that's going to change with Web3. Maybe I'm not that optimistic, to be honest, but I feel like everything somehow gets there because of the economy. People need to make money from it, the profits and that and this. So basically, yes, it depends on the artist to imagine, but at the same time, people just tell artists to imagine and then just like turn back and then do like think how they make more money. So I think we're just gonna come up to the same end where we're just gonna be stuck in this like metaverse room as we are in this room at the moment and just feel the same. Because I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but this is how I feel. I just feel like we constantly do the same mistake, and I hope it's not gonna be that, but...
Don't be pessimistic.
But yeah, it just feels that way.
Yeah. So I do have a background in movement and dance expression, and I think there's exciting potential in the realm of human expression in digital environments from the body that are very exciting as an aesthetic and an art form. And I think that's just opening. We're just beginning to see that door open, a crack of that door open, because I think there's a lot of potential about creating human movement in technology and in digital forms, and how that then resonates with others and contributes to how we kind of non-verbally communicate with each other. And what's really fascinating about that is the potential for machine learning and artificial intelligence to then analyze how we move, how we express ourselves, and then actually be able to identify you. You know, we talk about our digital wallet, but actually one of the most identifying aspects of ourselves is our nonverbal communication, how we walk in the space and how we present ourselves in our physical body. And with the hardware and the associated wearables, the AI can pick that up and probably, you know, not in a very short amount of time, tell us more about ourselves and each other than we are willing to consider right now.
And I think that we are not talking about the future. What happened in China, and just when they detect all these guys are just contaminated from the virus, they detect from 10 meters from the back, from the body language. Yeah. This means that body is becoming also a bio-indicator, like the eyes or fingerprints. Yeah. So we're going to have a unique body, but enabled to do much more than it can do physically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we are going to have different expressions. Are we going to be more traceable? Because in the very beginning of the discussion, you talked about data and how we are leaving data everywhere. Today, we are following data from everything, even when your cursor is moving, how long your cursor stayed there, which word you just searched in Google when you watched that, etc., etc. We are all using all these. But now we are giving 100 times more data. And it will be captured not only by the big tech, but I don't know by who. But the data will be volatile somewhere, and someone will fish it and make it something else. What do you think about it? The data and our rights.
So,
I mean, this is obviously beyond a bit like, I mean, how does it work at the moment? Like, how does it work at the moment that there's all these companies, they promised that they would protect our data, but I mean, when you look at
And
all
as
the
let's talk about
advertisements.
China, they don't even promise you to protect your data, but they know you
Well, this is
by your
definitely a
face.
different
Even
conversation,
if you
yeah.
want a banking credit,
It's a
it's from
possibility.
your grades on the total
way-
face
the way-
recognition. Yeah. So I think that most companies may do it. They're not doing it yet.
Yeah, exactly. But even if they say that they're doing, I don't believe that they are. So it's just, it's just like this data is like
Ding, ding, ding, ding, ding, ding,
all the
ding, ding,
data.
ding,
It's
ding, ding,
basically just mash of information everywhere and like all the time, and people can just use it the way they want.
I think in terms of data, we as individuals in society need to begin to understand our data better, because right now we give it away like it's
Exactly.
nothing. But it is very valuable and will continue to be very valuable. And so, you know, in the context of the future of the metaverse, the shaping of the metaverse, you know, a vision of the metaverse, and the artificial intelligence connected to all of that data, that you know, that's why we have data, because we can make machine learning around it for good and for bad. But what we need to understand right now about the shaping of the future of the metaverse is that every digital interaction, no matter how, you know, actually unconscious we are in our digital engagement, the likes, the scrolling, the time, every single purchase you make, you know, the fact that, you know, half of you are on your phones right now, and it's paying attention to that time, and it's paying attention to all of that activity. The AI, and it'll use all of that data from now in 2022, in this moment, right now, will actually shape the future of the metaverse in 5, 10 years' time. And so we have to become more conscious and more responsible about our digital engagements, because right now, the artificial intelligence is not seeing the best side of us. We're giving it and feeding it information of the worst of ourselves, to be honest. It sees barely any kindness, very, very little empathy. It sees a lot of consumerism. It sees a lot of negative aspects of who we are. And that, you know, if we continue on this trajectory of our digital engagement and this unconscious, irresponsible approach to it, then we will have a metaverse that represents that dystopian future that we're all afraid of. And we have to become more aware of that. And I think artists have a really important role in getting that message out there, and also affecting change and showing the AI, the metaverse, the platforms that are building metaverses, that actually humans aren't the data that they have in the current state of 2022. It's something else, it's something different, it's much more complex. There's beauty, there's love, there's, you know, there's hate, there's the complexity of it, of being human. And then we will have a metaverse that is fully representative of a society that might be fit for purpose in the future, and that we might want to spend our time in, and that might be compelling for us to join and be part of.
But we didn't really did a great job with those responsibilities with the environment and the reality we are living in. So I guess we need to somehow take lessons from that.
Everything that is old is new again.
In a way. So Enes, what do you expect for you to change now? Because I'm just, being an artist, you started in different techniques, different mentalities, and now you have really the huge spectrum of opportunity, which was also never seen before.
Yeah.
Is it hard?
I mean, not necessarily. There's obviously...
You don't know what perfection is, for example. For an artist, it's always running behind the perfection.
Exactly.
For a musician too. But
I
you
think
don't know what perfect is, because perfect
think
is
that
always
word-
escaping from you.
Exactly. I mean, not necessarily. I think that's really changing for me, the definition of perfection. I guess I was a little bit too stuck with some ideals that I had, like so many things that I just thought, I just knew how they should be, but that just like gets rounder and rounder, and like losing the corners. So I don't know exactly what's gonna happen with all these possibilities and what I'm gonna do exactly with it. I have ideas, obviously, but what really fascinates me at the moment is combination of different things. I don't necessarily want to as I said before, I never wanted to belong into one thing. So I don't see myself as just like, okay, this is a new world, I have to be in it, and this is the only world that there is. It's not. So what I want to do, and what I kind of like digging in, is creating things that are connecting different things, different realities, different times, different worlds. I just want to be, I like little bridges almost. I just want to, I feel more comfortable with myself if I feel that when I create something, and if it's like in between that and this and this and like it exists in between. And then it can belong to all of them, but it belongs to none at the same time. That's where I feel good with what I do. So, for example, what I just said before when I was talking, that we could be in my work right now, that you can buy that and just like put glasses and be in it. But it could be an option that you actually buy a physical thing there, but when you put the glasses, it changes form. It changes the way it shows itself. It reveals something else, but it's still there. It never goes away. This is more fascinating to me than just thinking about there's a new opportunity and new space that I can create. It's still a tool. It should not define me.
Are you getting the reactions you expect? At the level you expect?
Never.
That's why you're an artist.
Yeah. Well, I find those things in myself more and more in time, though, which makes me feel better. Sometimes I feel like I expect too much. And I should expect those from myself, and I started to find them sometimes, and that feels good.
Okay, so Nina, I would like to get into a different topic in Metaverse, which is education. Education for ages is executed in the same way, almost. That's a teacher-learner. There is a guy who knows it, and there are apprentices around. It can be a real scientific thing, but it can be also a profession or something. It's a teacher-learner, so there is someone telling things, and the others are just inert receiver, and the worst thing is they have to give back whatever is they're said. So they have to do exactly the same. This is even a problem for the artist because they are generally educated in ateliers for too many times, and you have to obey the guy who runs the atelier. So in Metaverse, I think and I hope things will change almost from scratch to top, because the usual educational tools, ways, beliefs should change, hopefully. I'm looking very, very positive on that.
Yeah, education is certainly one of those sectors that can do with a bit of digital transformation. I think the pandemic proved that that children and educators have been underserved by the capacities of technology, and really it's not fit for purpose. As you've said, education hasn't transformed or adapted to the needs of the 21st century, and it's still training children to live in an industrialized world where we need people to do as they're told because we need massive amounts of people to get particular jobs done. And I think one of the things that the metaverse and all the technology associated with that is that people won't have to be doing all of those mundane jobs because they will be replaced by robots. As far-fetched and maybe potentially skeptical you may be, that is a part of the issue here, is that the automation of some of the kind of more essential roles will cause disruption. And I think right now, if we could future-proof our children, this generation that's being born today and moving into education, one of the things that we could do is apply these enabling and emerging technologies, harness the power of them, and put them in the hands of educators, even parents, and especially children today, so that they can begin to understand what the future might look and feel like, and that they can contribute to shaping the future of the metaverse and all the different technology and components that are associated with that, so that they are a part of shaping it. And so the capacity for unlocking the imaginations of children in the metaverse is one of the exciting aspects of the technology, because you're no longer having to sit in this seat and imagine, if we have the capacity to imagine, in our minds what ancient Rome was like, or to watch, a video of a spaceship from 1970s being rocketed off to the moon landing. We can now enter the metaverse, and the educator can facilitate a lesson about Mars on Mars. They can facilitate a lesson about ancient Rome or Shakespeare or whatever the content might be, and travel back in time, go on field trips, shrink down to the size of an ant, travel through the human body, learn about the digestive system in real, immersed, present, and embodied ways that has an offering of kinesthetic learning that we all know is much more valuable, much more deep, and transforms from this system of regurgitation of information. And the winner is the person who can retain the most information for that 1 hour that test is, and then you get to go do whatever you want in the world because you did really well in school. It actually becomes the student who can imagine, who can think innovatively, who can think about how to design their own virtual world and bring others into it and to create a sense of belonging, or artists who are, exploring new territories and making impact on social messages. And, there's all sorts of capabilities that we can't even comprehend yet because the technology has such potential. So yeah, education.
It's the numeric part also, because with all this retention,
Yeah.
you give back. With all this retention, you have to give back whatever it's told to you, and then you are evaluated by figures, so that your success is evaluated with those figures. Like in Turkey, you have to have exams for everything, even to go to universities, even to lycees, etc., etc. But now we're talking about imagination first, imagination, expression, etc., where you have to have difficulties to give notes or qualify that with numbers and figures. So the differentiation or evaluating the success or the talent would be the biggest problem, I think. Because all the tools we have till now, all these points you get, all these numbers you get are in fact meaningless. So total education system, which is based on numbers and figures and notes,
Yeah,
is
I think what's interesting is
demolishing.
all of those numbers and figures and marks is data, right? And so now we have the capacity to capture new types of data. So the learner, let's just hypothesize that we can look at the learner's heart rate, their breathing, their electricity in their brain and their eye tracking, and we can use the data harnessed from that about specific points in which they then were more engaged, they learned more, they got into that moment of flow where we all feel like learning is exciting and fun and new. It's a transformation of what data we prioritize and value. And that's going to take a bit of time, because we are like hard fast on the current set of data that we can use to compare ourselves, this generation from that generation to the previous generation. But I think once certain founders of certain meta companies realize, well, they already know how much value is in that data about that biofeedback, and we need to figure out other ways of utilizing that data that's being harnessed in education and an individual child's learning needs, their neurodiversity needs, their learning needs, whatever capacity that we can apply that data to really look at that individual child, look at their data and say, okay, we now understand how you learn better.
Whatever you said, Nina, it's so nice. It's so nice. But I see too many young friends here.
Yeah.
They are applying to companies. Unfortunately, they are treated by HR people. Those HR people have their own.
But just make sure there's no HR people in the room.
Even
you
if
go
they are,
forward here.
even if they are, I would say exactly the same thing, and they have to learn.
Should be also.
Those HR guys have their own tools,
uçağı the same in the last 50 years, and still they are using it. And also they ask you, where you see yourself in 5 years? I also wanted to ask them where they see themselves in 5 years and their company. I don't think that they have even the smallest idea. So I think that the biggest problem we are going to have in the transition period is this evaluation system's difference between what they call talent and what they measure or how they capture if somebody is a talent or not. And all these people should suffer another 5-10 years to get rid of those HR people's very old or Neolithic tools.
But what does make a talent actually? You think?
You ask the HR people thinking or
Well,
mine?
I mean, I can get
or
both
mine.
options. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, of course, there are fields that are very, scientific and precise, and that are also working with numbers and data. But when you're in fields as like in art and everything, you kind of create a feeling most of all, like more than anything. And I mean, you can't really put that in numbers so much. You can when you're selling it, but you can't really measure it because you feel it or you don't. But if we feed the AI with this data which can understand the complexity of human emotion, then maybe in the future that might be a thing as well.
Dangerous again.
It is. Everything is. But I mean, what is dangerous? What is not dangerous that it's ever good?
What is not dangerous? Staying at home doing nothing.
Yeah, amazing.
No risk, no revenue. This is the best thing in economy. High risk, high revenue. No risk, no revenue.
Yeah.
Okay, now the killing question. When we are talking metaverse, we're talking about blockchains, of course, but at the end, we are talking about many things starting with a D. D something, DeFi, D this, D that.
Yeah.
The most important one is decentralization. All the 20th century is built on centralization. And 20th century is now over, not in 2000, but these days, most probably in 2030, this will be the end of the total values of 20th century. And 20th century is central. CIA, central. Everything is central. You have to have someone at the center because we are always organized in an army-wide pyramids with a huge hierarchy.
Yeah.
This is the total thinking of the society. And suddenly, we are talking about decentralized, even we are going further, decentralized, autonomous organizations.
Yeah.
This is a huge antagonism between what is existing in companies, in schools, in states, in governments, in NGOs even. Everything is organized in a central way. And we are talking about decentralization. We are talking about circles. It's a huge new way of thinking, living,
Yeah, it is.
managing.
Definitely.
And I think it will take another 30 years, this quarrel between central and decentralized. And central bank, the idea is 15th century, early 15th century. Now we're talking about refinance. Do you hear me? Yeah, we're talking now about definance. 600 years later. So also this decentralization will change, in my way of thinking, too many things in the coming 20, 25 years. And this will be a harsh one because the center and the power, because we also talked about the power in the beginning.
What do you think it's going to take over? As like just taking the human out of the center and replacing
this
it
will
with
be circular.
machine,
For
or?
example, let me say the best part, the companies. The companies, my system is Ocean 11. You remember the film?
Yeah.
So every single company needs a George Clooney and a Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
so that a guy who is writing the strategy and the other guy who is putting
Putting it
together
in
the
action,
team.
yeah.
So I'm just, if you need a truck operator, you have one. If you have another type of thief, you have one. And if you have a Chinese acrobat, you have one. What we do today in our companies, we make the smallest guy in the company an acrobat. And of course, it is not working. So it will be circle, it will be teams, people will work in more than one place, and for the same job, we will have too many people. And it's already existing in film industry.
Yeah, it is.
And just an explosion is from some different team. A car chasing is a different team. A romantic scene is a different thing, but you have a main guy also doing everything. So this will change. And don't tell me about the governments because they are already changing so fast and maybe we cannot talk about it.
Yeah, I
But
guess
still,
so.
even the governmental organization should change with the decentralization in 20, 30, 40 years, I don't know, but Metaverse will also, in my opinion, is a big impulse for the change of the pyramidal organization. Do you think so?
I think, again, what's exciting about these conversations is that, you know, none of us have a crystal ball, and the future is yet to be told. And it's going to be, of course, none of us will experience it in 100 years' time, but the stories they're going to tell about us right now. All I can say is I hope they tell a good story and that they're in a good place, and that because some centralization of some aspects of society has done us some good. Let's all agree. And so decentralization of of every single system, I don't think is the way of the future, and there will be a balance. And it's going to get messy over the next however many years till we figure out that balance again. And again, that push and pull, that duality, maybe there's something in between,
I
right?
mean, that's always where I find myself most comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I think, you know, the Ocean's 11 analogy, you know, like who's the technology in that? You know, is it whose role is replaced by the technology? Is it the Chinese acrobat? You know, is it George Clooney?
No, it's total process.
The total process, but it's going
You
to
have
be
a strategist and then it's total
But
process.
I mean, if it's the total process, but it's going to be one by one. Like, it's not going to be all of a sudden.
No.
And I think.
That's why I said 30, 40 years. in
Yes,
fact.
yeah, and yeah. I mean, we're living history.
So it's good for an artist.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow any rule now. And also you don't have to feed anyone's expectations already known for ages.
Why would anyone do anything then? I mean,
Well, saying that, I'm just,
I think when we don't have such limitations, we started to create our own limitations, and we try to focus on what we are limiting ourselves with as humans, which might be actually connected to our conversation as like human behavior in Metaverse. That it's like when you're not defined or not limited, you started to look inward, I think, a bit more. And when you look inward, you realize the limitations you have or the limitations that you put on yourself. And then you work on those things. And I don't know like how long you can work on those and where you can get out of afterwards. And if there is an afterwards, you know, it's another process. But I think we've been challenged so much as humanity with so many different things that like I don't think we really had a chance to just like sit down and look inside and just like think. We're still like talking about always what's happening outside of us. I think maybe all these things that's happening might help us to look a little bit more inward, and when we do so, I think we would know a little bit better what we want to do with all this technology and tools, and maybe we will understand the responsibilities that we need to put into all these things a little bit more.
super. I would like to see also your personal involvements
Nina, for example, you're a co-founder of your initiative Kabuni, and it's quite interesting because generally people are doing that for the new beginners, and yours is 8 and 16, which is the most difficult part of the education, I think. Can you tell a bit about Kabuni?
Yes, Kabuni. Kabuni Metaverse is a safe metaverse for children ages 8 to 16 to learn, grow, and explore, focusing on pedagogical innovation, so how we can transform the field of pedagogy, education, how we deliver content, but specifically within the metaverse and using immersive technology, and later in the roadmap, how we can integrate aspects of other Web3 components to support the needs of the child. Because currently, in the current state of technology, every device, every aspect, hardware, software, content of technology that we put into children's hands was not designed for them. It was designed by some other industry, and then some derivative of that is now then put into your child's hands, my own children's hands, and it wasn't designed to meet their needs, and it certainly wasn't designed to prioritize their psychological needs and their growing developmental needs, those most kind of impressionable years of a young person. And again, Web 2, social media, the internet, we ask those questions, but in the name of autonomy and a freedom of speech, we created a plethora of internet experiences that children are exposed to a lot of online harms. And we ask our children today, and we teach them to put on armor and to get their swords out, and then they can go onto the internet, right? And then they can look around every corner and make sure there's not what we call a bad actor coming to get them in the internet. And my suggestion, our suggestion, Kabuni, is that actually, why don't we design, in the context of the metaverse being a digital twin of the world, design a playground that's actually made for children, where they can learn, where teachers are guiding them through learning experiences, not only from academic outcomes, maybe retention, maybe engagement, speed, and health, but also supporting them to be humans who know how to treat other humans in the metaverse and in the real life. So, and in every aspect of life. So that's the vision, and it starts with education, 8 to 16, supporting educators to evolve and deliver better education by harnessing the technology that's available today, but with a long-term commitment to evidence-based methodologies with rigorous, robust methods to really understand how best to integrate this technology and future technologies into the lives of children so that we do more good than we do harm.
And what is the usual education institution's reaction for that?
They understand that.
Already?
Yeah, they do. We have a research program that we've engaged with 300 educators, with by extension about 5,000 students, where the pandemic showed them that they can do a lot better, and it's certainly not the fault of educators in any capacity, but they are very innovative. Of course, there'll be those classic ones who still want chalk and a blackboard, but the question is, how do we make this transformation? How do we support educators into this space? And that's kind of the essence of building a community of educators in the metaverse, in the kind of essence of Web3, and providing them with the autonomy, the power, the agency to deliver the education that's possible with new technologies.
That's a very good initiation, in fact. And as in your case, the education is the worst part, because till today, art education was a different way of doing it. Now you have to almost as much educate on technology than art, because all the techniques are converging towards the technology.
Yeah.
And also your work also is
It's connected
somehow
to,
connected to technology, and the end product is art, but heavily depending on technology. So
Yeah.
how do you think it will evolve?
I actually don't know if it would be better if I didn't have any education on art. But, I mean, I guess that's something everyone says, but at the same time, it's like, I think for myself, I tried to unlearn everything I was learning for so long that it kind of like paralyzed me, that I couldn't do anything. And then at some point I decided to actually own it and then just like do what I can do with it and combine it with other aspects that I found. And that was kind of technology, because it's something I was always involved with as well. And if it goes that way, like in general, the education that we're talking about, it's probably going to be the same thing with art. You know, it's like there will be probably. I mean, there is now more digital art education that's happening there, I guess, like in some parts.
So I'm just, you also, you have to be educated almost every single day till the age of 70, I think, while the technology is improving like that.
This is what I was also talking about, that like to learn how to learn. And in that case, if you are in a place where you can just like, there's information everywhere now, you know, like you can really educate yourself so easily. So obviously, the data is there. You can do so much with it. It's just like, I think you just need to learn how to use all those things, or there's an AI telling you what you need to learn. So basically, again, what you give is what you get. So I think at the moment, I'm trying to just like focus on why I'm doing what. And then it kind of like brings me what I need to learn, because I don't need to learn everything. Obviously, I can do a lot more, but it's like, at the end, for me, it always comes to a point, okay, why do I even like do this? Like I find
maybe you're going to go more on collaborations.
I do a lot of collaborations, and it's always teaching me a lot. This is actually one of my favorite ways to learn, to be honest, and it's it comes from a pure interaction that you can feel related to, because you collaborate with people that you feel a connection with. And
But also you can collaborate with a dancer, why not?
well, I do. I would love that, of course. It's like, it's just that you need to have your intuition, and that intuition takes you and shows you what you need to learn, and the information is there, and then you just learn it. That's all what I wanted to say.
But in art schools today, we are far from that all around the world.
Art schools don't understand what intuition is, I guess. It's just like, they're only, maybe it's not their place also. Not yet, at least.
Okay, so for the last minute, your last sentences, in that case, metaverse and human expression and humanity, will it work? Or we are going to be disintegrate?
Well, again, we are living at a very extraordinary time in human history, and we have a responsibility to reconsider our relationship with technology in 2022 in order to shape a better future for younger generations and for ourselves, if that's all you want to think about. But it's important that we do not underestimate this moment in time in the context of the immersion, the sense of presence, and the full embodiment that we will be engaging with technology and digital interactions with other human beings. And if we underestimate its capability right now, even at the level of fidelity that we currently have, then we will be doing ourselves a massive disservice, and we will find ourselves in yet another technical system that is not fit for purpose and does us more damage than it does good.
Very positive.
I mean, it's not necessarily. It's like very...
Whatever, or not.
Thank you, Enes.
Okay, I'm a little overdramatic
No, I mean,
about
you're not saying something like super positive, in my opinion. You're saying something a bit more realistic. It can go either way, you're saying, basically, no? It's like, it depends
So
on
in
us.
that case, the only saying is, let's wait and see. Que sera, sera.
Whatever will be, will be.
Exactly. So, Nina, Enes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was a superb one. Arkadaşlar, Enes'in işi varsa orada bir küçük bir şekilde seyredelim. While we are leaving the scene, let's see what Enes' work is also. We talk too much about, but maybe
We have people who didn't
It
see
passed
them.
at some point, but it
Some
was,
part, but at least if we have any other, we are going to see them. Thank you again Nina, Enes. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
as
for
well.
listening us. Çok teşekkürler efendim.